Unfortunately, we didn't get to see the conclusion of a tremendous 3-month run by the USC football team in the last 8 weeks of the season to make it all the way to the Pac-12 championship game, complete what they started in this revival season, and get a shot at a rematch with Washington to really put a stamp on the number one team in the Pac-12. That didn't happen because Utah couldn't get it done against Colorado, so it's the Buffs from the South taking on the Washington Huskies. We bring in Nick Dempsey from Conquest Chronicles to talk all that is USC football in the aftermath of another win, this time over Notre Dame by 18 points. Nick, the college football playoff is a done deal as it pertains to the Trojans, but a lot of interesting bowl matchups out there, including the granddaddy of them all.
Yeah, USC actually does have a path to the Rose Bowl. That path requires one that Washington goes to the playoff, which would require them to win the Pac-12. You would think almost certainly. So after that, if Washington goes to the top four, the Rose Bowl is going to get the next highest ranked Pac-12 team, which will either be Colorado or who I believe is at 8 this week. Yeah. Colorado at 8 or potentially USC at 11. Now, there's not much precedent because, we've only had this playoff format for a couple years now, but frequently the loser of a Pac-12 championship game or of a conference championship game is not punished too much. You don't drop as hard because you played an extra game against a good team and you lost. But it has happened a few times where they've dropped hard, but those teams have lost handily, including USC dropped more than 3 spots last year when Stanford handed it to them in the Pac-12 championship game. So what USC is going to need to happen is Washington wins big, and then USC could probably leap in front of them. Now, USC does have the head-to-head win, and Colorado would have the same number of losses as USC, but Colorado would have that extra win. So you're probably looking at needing Washington to win big in order for USC to get to the Rose Bowl. There they would play either the Big Ten champ, the winner of the Big Ten championship game, or actually there's a lot of different scenarios because there's 4 Big Ten teams in the top 8. So it's tough we could be seeing it like the Big Ten's 3rd or 4th best team in the Rose Bowl at this point, which is pretty absurd to think about. But it would be very cool to see USC versus a Michigan, or in theory, Ohio State would also be very interesting to watch. But if they don't make the Rose Bowl, they've got a pretty good shot at going to Jerry World in the Cotton Bowl. So it'd be interesting to see them start and end their season at Jerry World. But as I understand it, the selection order, it's going to be Western Michigan is probably going to the Cotton Bowl. So it'd be USC versus Western Michigan. I don't know how exciting that is. And if they don't get those 2 bowls, USC is probably almost certainly going to the Alamo Bowl, who gets to pick first in the Big Ten, or the Big 12 and the Pac-12 after the CFP has assigned the New Year's 6 bowls. So odds are, if they don't go to the Rose or the Cotton Bowl, they're going to go to the Alamo Bowl and probably play the loser of Bedlam. So you could see a USC versus Oklahoma State or USC versus Oklahoma, which would also be very interesting to watch. So those are the 3 most likely. It's highly unlikely the Alamo Bowl passes. Alamo Bowl gets their choice. So it's highly unlikely they're going to pass on USC, especially if their choices after that are Stanford or Washington State. Probably not as big a financial draw. But we've seen weirder things on bowl selection day.
Well, last year we saw probably the 4th best team in the Big Ten. I know that the standings didn't say that, but Ohio State was probably the best team. Michigan State made the playoff. Michigan was better than Iowa, and Iowa landed in the Rose Bowl. Sure, they had the great season. They earned it. But in terms of talent, we saw what happened with Christian McCaffrey running through black jerseys all afternoon.